final guest tonight is a building worker who became an actor, and a very good one too. There's an integrity and a power to his acting that can't be taught at drama school. He's best known as the nation's favourite couch potato, Jim Royal, in the Royal Family. Ladies and gentlemen, Ricky Tomlinson. It's great, isn't it?
Got half a pound of margarine on that.
It's a good one. It's your own too,
It's
isn't it?
my own.
Right,
Yeah.
it is. We're proud of that, mate. It's a real bonds of that. Is that going back in your youth?
This goes back to Liverpool when I used to go to the Grafton on a Saturday afternoon to the tea dance. And it was called a tea dance, and it was a shilling, 5p. And you went into the dance and you got a cup of tea and a biscuit. And you used to have like a little trio. And then the fella used to come and play a few records, and we used to start jiving and used to get thrown out. Because they wouldn't allow you to jive. Oh,
I remember that. I remember.
The devil's
Remember
music.
the night we were dancing together? We got thrown out.
I'll never forget it.
Nobody threw us out for jiving, yeah.
There's a great affinity between you two in a sense. I mean, Glasgow, Liverpool, and welder, builder.
Yeah. Banjo players.
Banjo players.
Yeah,
Good
we're
one
both
and a bad
banjo
one.
players.
That's the game.
And also, I mean, the difference is that Billy's not been to prison and you have.
He should do with a knack like that, though.
But can we just talk about, because that's a fascinating part of your life. You're a labourer, you were arrested and charged with incitement to
Conspiracy
riot.
we were charged with,
Conspiracy.
yeah.
And sent to prison for 2 years.
Well, the reason why they charged us with conspiracy was the actual offences carried like prison terms of 3 months or 4 months. If they use a conspiracy law, then they can give you life.
They got you forever.
And that's what. But we were actually offered a deal in the cells. Plead guilty, and you get fined 50 quid, and the union will pay the fine. And I said,
why didn't you?
Because I've never been in trouble with the police. I'd done nothing wrong. And there were 6 of us on trial, and 2 of us said, well, we're not pleading guilty. And the other 4 wanted to take the deal. And good enough when we said, well, we're having a go. And they stayed with us. But
what about yourself? I mean, how did you handle prison?
well, it did change my life, honest to God. You know, I mean, I had a tremendous family. I mean, my mum will be watching this tonight. She's 86, Peggy, and I love her to death. I love her to death, and I was interested listening to Billy talking at the back there. I was fascinated because I adored my father.
Well, you were lucky, weren't you?
He was 55 when he died, and I miss him now. And he's the first man, I know this sounds a bit corny, he's the first man I ever kissed. And I kissed him when he was in hospital, and I wouldn't go in to see him. I couldn't, and I was a rough and tumble merchant to take my coat off and have a little go with him and all that.
What was wrong with your dad?
He was dying of cancer,
right.
and they had him in Clatterbridge, and my eldest brother, who is adorable, I've got 3 brothers, and he said, we're going in to see my dad tonight, and I said, I'm working, I'm doing a little gig, and he went, no, we're going in to see my dad. And I said, Albus, I'm working. I said, yeah, and he said, and I never thought that with my brothers, particularly him, and he went, we're going in to see my dad. And I thought, and the lads went down and gave him football magazines and this and that, and I went down, and he didn't need confectionery with that, he didn't need sweets or anything, and I gave him a penny bar of chocolate and put my arms around him and kissed him. And he said, I know. He said, he knew why I hadn't been in to see him. And I started crying. And he just said, take me home. And we took him home. He died a few days later at home, you know. But I adored him. And when I used to go to school and kids would say, oh, when I go home, my dad's going to kill me. I couldn't. I said, what do you mean your dad's going to kill you?
Never hit you.
My dad used to come. He was a baker, as I say, so he worked nights. He'd go home of a morning, and we'd be in the playground, and he'd come along with a bag full of buns, you know, barm cakes we used to call it, the baps now, aren't they? Yeah. And they'd be buttered, and he'd hand them out to all the kids. And he went on strike once, him and his mate, in this little bakery, and he went on, so that was it. And he had to go in and bake for the hospitals and stuff like that. And I came home and I said, hey, Dad, I said, everyone in school's got these barm cakes, you know. And he went and said, no, he said, I go out at 5 o'clock in the morning and put them through people's letterboxes who've got kids. So we used to go around and put barm cakes through people's letterboxes who had children. So the kids wouldn't go under it, and he was on bloody strike.
How did the prison change you? And it did change you fundamentally, didn't it? Because you...
It changed me absolutely, because like Billy, I passed a scholarship when I was 13. used to have a 13 plus in them days for, I don't know, kids who they thought maybe should have passed the 11 plus and for one reason or another didn't. And I passed it, and there was a choice of 3 sort of colleges you could go to in them days. You go to a technical college and become a building worker, which I did. I became a city and guilds plasterer, or you could become an engineer. Or in them days, you could go to what they called a commercial college and learn to write, to type, do shorthand, and concentrate on English, and that's what I wanted to do. I was desperate, and I couldn't, because I suppose it's the equivalent of like sort of being gay a few years ago. It was one of them things. And so I
Jonah Jess's
honest to God, yeah. And I used to have to, like,
yeah.
the school cap, and I was Billy said, I used to have to take it off when I got off the tram, coming home and put the cap in my bag, and I was... but when I went to prison...
It's terrible how inhibited you are.
Yeah, but when I went to prison, I was in solitary confinement for sort of so much of the time that I used to, like, sort of write on lavatory paper or get books sent in, and I could write and just, as you say, pour out what's inside you. And then I started listening to the radio, to Radio 4, and to plays, and it's weird. It's absolutely weird. And I love classical music, and I can't understand the blind word they're singing about, but I adore it. I love it, you know.
But you also, I mean, you used to, because you could write, you used to write letters for prisoners who couldn't write, didn't you?
Mostly Scotch lads. Honestly, this is amazing. I'm telling you, these, I used to let them in the cell, and they'd come in and say, I can't do the accent, but they say, can you write us a letter home somehow, you know? I'd say, yeah, okay, what's your wife's name? So-and-so and so-and-so. What do you want them? Tell them I'm sorry, and, you know, I won't do it again. So I'd write these letters, and at the end of the letter, I used to say to them, what do you want me to put? I love you and miss you. And every time, they'd grab you, and they'd have you up the wall. They'd have you up the wall, like an old chicken. And I'd say, what's the matter? I'd say, don't you want me to say, I love them? They couldn't say the word love. No. They couldn't say it. So I used to put it and send them up. And then, you know, a week or two later, they'd come back and say, can you read that back? And the replies were wonderful. And I've seen these big, hard cases, like little tears in their eye, and pretending they've got a cough. and it was wonderful, but, you know, it was a nice experience, you know.
Well, when you came out of prison, of course, I mean, you got the double whammy, because when you came out, you'd been blacklisted by the building, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
So you couldn't work.
No, couldn't work. Blacklisted. Used to have our photographs up in the site agent's office. And my mate, Desi, I did have our photographs up. So my mate, Desi Warren, changed his name to Jones, because he was living in Chester, you know, on the Welsh border. So he changed his name to Jones and dyed his hair and put these thick glasses on and walked on the site and walked up to the auto. One of the lads shouted, "All right, Desi!"
So you made a living by going out and playing your banjo?
I've done anything. I'll clean windows. I've done a bit of busking. Got a job my brother was the consec at one of these British Legion clubs, you know. And he said, there's a fellow going on holiday, there's a fortnight's work there if you want to comp. That was like, let's just Saturday and Sunday night, the 2 nights for 2 weeks. I said, yeah. And I went and I ended up staying 18 months, you know.
You played some rough clubs too, didn't you?
Oh! Seriously, I used to play the clubs in Liverpool with a little trio called the Wooden Nickel. We used to do this club called the Colombo Club. So we'd get in this old van, throw an amplifier in and a banjo and a guitar, and shoot down. And the place was full of gangsters. And the only women who went in there with like streetwalkers and girls off the ships, girls working the ships, you know. So we're playing one Sunday afternoon, and we used to play from 3 till 5. And we didn't know at the time we had no licence, nothing. And the guy who owned the club was called Tony Gallagher, who was a little Irish guy who'd been a little professional boxer, bantamweight or something. And the next thing is these fellas come in the club with the shotguns, and so there's both barrels everywhere. So I threw myself under a beer mat on the stage. and we're like that, and we're watching the smoke. It's like a Western. We're watching the smoke rise. And all these fellas who threw themselves under the table, because they all thought it was for them. And they're all like that, looking over the table. And Tony Gallagher, this is the truth, he was at the far end of the club, and he vaulted the bar. And he was only a little guy. And he ran right through, jumped on the stage, grabbed the microphone, and said, "That's it! Shotguns in my club! In future, no one gets in unless they've got a tie on!"
mean, but what about the acting now? Because this is what you're best known for now. And as I said in the introduction, I mean, you've got this kind of integrity and truth about your acting that you can't learn at drama school. Have you thought that you might go to drama school?
Oh, don't need to take the lead off the roof. No. No, I've been a lucky guy, haven't I? I mean, you know, I've had a few little breaks and I've met some lovely people. I adore Caroline Aherne, and that's why I abhor what they write about in the paper. She is wonderful. She's sensitive. She's so generous with time and with money. She treats the cast and the crew like no one I've ever worked with before. She's wonderful.
You like the Jim Roll character?
Well, he's me, isn't he? He's me. My Rita's out there, somewhere out there, and she's probably asleep, but she's out there somewhere. and we get there's only me and Rita live at home. And when the phone bill comes, I go bonkers. I say, oh, what's that? How can that be that? How can that... And as I'm talking, I'm switching the lights off. How can that be...
What, do you get the street recognition, do you?
I'd done... a fella phoned me up from Bolton, and he said... I can't do the accent, but the accent's wonderful. He said, Rick, he said, I'm at this football zoo. He said, you've got 6 or 7 young teams here. He said, and one of the players from Bolton should have come to present the prizes and the medals. He said, and he's let us down. I said, Malcolm, I said, it's 8 o'clock, I've just got in from work. Oh, he said, they're not after... I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll grab a few photographs, but it'll take me an hour to get there. Liverpool to Bolton, you know. Yeah. She said, really? I said, oh, I'm going. Anyway, I goes and there's about 100 kids there because there's 7 teams, there's 12 or 14 in the team with and this fella and the player of the year. And so I thought, here we go, let's get stuck in. So I goes in, and you know the score, you pick up the trophy, they read the name out, the kid comes over, you hand it with the left hand, you shake hands with it. And I was thinking, I'll try and change. I said, well done, well played. And every one of them said to me, my ass. Every one of them.
It's a lovely... such is fame. Now tell us, because you're going to conclude the entertainment tonight with this wonderful number, which is called...
Are you looking at me?
Are you looking at me?
But
Jock.
a fella come to me and he said, will you sing this song? And I said, he's here tonight, Phil. And I said, I can't sing. I love music. And I've got one... My eldest brother was talking about before. It's fabulous. He's like cross between Dean Martin and Billy Eckstine. He's a real good singer. I said, I can't sing. He said, oh, come on, do it. And I said, well, I will if I can get someone to sort of give me a little bit of support. So I got in touch with Noddy Older. And we actually sent him a fax, you know, saying, Dean, Noddy, you're making this record. Will you come down and just do a little bit of backing vocals? Because he's got like a very cultured voice, Noddy, hasn't he? He's like same elocution teacher as me.
He's a lovely boy, lovely singer.
And he sent a letter back saying, what are you offering? So we sent another fax back saying, £12.50 and a week in my caravan in Benidorm. And we've actually signed the contract. And he's here tonight to give me a handout.
All right, so we're going to hear it now.
Yep.
It's a rumbustious, please.
I love this.
You like this, do you?
I love it. I saw the video. It's brilliant.
All right, then. Ricky Tomlinson, your band awaits you on there. Ricky
Thank you very much indeed.
My thanks to Ricky Tomlinson, Pamela Stevenson, Billy Conley and David Gray. Next week, my guests are Stephen Fry, Gabrielle, Larry Hagman and Cher. We leave you now to the tender mercies of Ricky Tomlinson and his band as they knock the stuffing out of a song of our times called Are You Looking At Me? From all of us here, a very good night. Good night.
Are you looking at me? Who do you think you're talking to? Are you looking at me? Am I looking at nice and titular. Are you looking at me? 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 Are you talking to me or chewing a drink? Are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Are you looking at me? Are you talking to me or chewing a drink? Teach you a lesson you won't, but I'm finished with you, you're not. Shut them up!